Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor on the Five Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app on Apple Podcasts. On Android, we recommend Spotify. Also, check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel for content across the South Florida sports spectrum. Also, check out Off the Floor and our new EuroBasket channel. Got 11 channels there in all, as well as our stage shows. You can basically subscribe by using the link in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge, pay the $2.99 a month, and you can cancel at any time. Again, it's Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. Also, check out PrizePicks. We got shows coming up for all the upcoming NFL games. They're playing 8 days a week. We'll have a show for pretty much every single one of them, starting with Philadelphia and also Dallas on Thursday night. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down your 5. Get your 50 at prizepicks.com. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleeping paths or allowed to morning. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we still proud.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Brady Hawk. You can follow him at Brady Hawk 305. All 3 Miami Heat players playing in EuroBasket have advanced to the knockout stage, all out of the group stage. Simone Fontecchio leading Italy in at least one of the games. A couple of the other games he didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but in one game he went nuts. He had 39 points. Italy, a bit of a surprise to come out. We did an episode with Brian Fonseca where he wasn't quite sure if they'd make it out of that stage. They did. Also weren't quite sure whether Sweden would, but they have. Even though they lost their most recent game to Lithuania, Pelle Larsson with a big first half, struggled a little bit in the second half, did finish with 18 points. But Sweden, with him, I believe, is the only NBA player advancing out of that round also. And, of course, the favorites in the tournament, even though Bogdan Bogdanovic has been hurt now and is out for the rest of the tournament, Serbia, Nikola Jovic has played very well for them. And actually, we could be setting up in the knockout stage for a game between Pella and Nico. They are in the same bracket here and could be facing each other as soon as, I believe, tomorrow as we're recording this. But we're going to focus on Larsson specifically here. Brady's been doing a series on the one improvement that each key player can make. We've moved this one up a little bit. We've already done Hero. You did Ware with Greg, but because of the way that Larsson's played lately, we thought we would focus on it. And I'm going to say this feels to me like the most obvious one of all of them based on things you've said before and also what we've seen. But I'm just curious what your view is on this, because I'm viewing him as a much different player than I did before Summer League. Like, not only to me is he a rotation lock at this point, but he's, I think, a lock for 20 plus minutes. And I think he actually could potentially be closing some games. But what to you is the one thing that he needs to do to really take the next step?
Yeah, I think this is one of those ones that are pretty obvious, which is just the shooting. I think I just look at what he's been doing this offseason specifically, and it's been such an on-ball role. Like, it's been a total difference to what his role was, I guess, with the Heat last year, where it's been with Summer League, it was his hand, the ball was in his hands the entire time. It was him creating out of pick and roll, it was him getting downhill, it was him doing all of that type of stuff. I'm looking at what he's doing with Sweden. It's been similar. Like, it's just been him just like bulldozing his way down the lane, playing in the fast break. But the thing that I think needs to improve is the shooting, just because I think he's going to come back to life a little bit this upcoming season where his role is going to be off ball again. I think it was so important for him to have these reps this offseason to kind of figure out both roles, because I think he's become a much better on-ball player probably over these last few months than he was the last time we seen him in the NBA. but he's going to need the shooting because the ball's going to be in the hands of all the guys we've been talking about all offseason. He's kind of going to be the plug and play guy, the connector. That's what we'll say. That'll be that defensive piece that they're going to need without Haywood. The baseline roamer, off-ball cutter that I think they thought Jaime was going to be 2 years ago. Maybe Jaime does get back to that, but I think Pelle's a little bit higher in the pecking order right now. They're just going to need his shooting to kind of take the next jump, because if it gets to a point where defenses are overly running out of him in the corner, or they're just like heavily showing on closeouts, we've seen what he can do against hard closeouts. Like, he has that first step. He has that size where he's able to kind of draw contact and get inside the paint, that if there's even the tiniest jump out of him, I think that it just changes a lot. And the respect that he gets in the half court could change a lot for his offensive game. So it really is the shooting. I think he shot around 33, 34% last year from three. It was a little under 2 attempts. So if he could get those attempt numbers up as the minutes rise, because that's going to be the big thing. If his minutes are going up, 3-point shots are probably going to go up. And if the percentage is stable, that's a pretty good rotation player for a guy out of the second round that's going into his second year. So I'd say it's all eyes on the shooting, as everything else seems kind of coming into form this offseason.
Brady, it seems like he's a little more comfortable shooting out of sort of, I wouldn't say broken possessions, but free-flowing possessions. I noticed that out in Vegas, and I've seen it a little bit in EuroBasket, where when he finds ways to spot up open. He's constantly moving, which is a good thing, and it just feels like that's better than. I don't want him, and we talk about Hawkes this way too sometimes, but I don't want him just standing there waiting. It just does not feel like that's his game at all, and that's not the game that Miami needs from him. Like, the shooting to me should come out of other stuff. It shouldn't come out of, okay, this is a possession, you're gonna have Larsson standing in the corner, you're gonna have Tyler, and maybe it's Tyler and Powell, or Tyler and Davion, or Wiggins, and one of them sort of doing their thing, and then kick it out to Larsson. I don't feel like that's where he would be most effective. He seems to need motion and contact and all those kind of things.
The thing is, the thing you're mentioning, it's happened with Jaime, Haywood, Nico, where they get stuck in the corner and they just kind of play that role. I have yet to see Pelle fall into that. He just can't. It feels like it's just in his brain that's embedded, that if he doesn't have the ball, he's supposed to either cut to the basket, go set a back screen. He's always moving. I think that's the one thing we always say when we watch him this offseason or last year, was he's just everywhere. He just never stops moving. So I think that's a good thing when you talk about the shooting, because for him and for a lot of young players on Miami and just in the NBA in general, I always say, the less they think when they're shooting, the better their percentage becomes. And I think when you're Jaime Hawkes, who's struggling from three and he's sitting in the corner and they're helping off, and then finally gets the ball and he sits there for a second and shoots it, it's probably not going to be a high percentage, because he's in his head about it, and he's not just reactionary. Pelle's more reactionary because he's just always going to the next play, the next thing, the next screen, the next pass. He just goes at 100 miles an hour. So 100% I agree. I think they cannot have him sitting still. They cannot have him find that role. I didn't expect, I'll be honest, in beginning of Summer League, when we saw him on the ball, I was like, this is just a Summer League thing. We've seen them do this with guys like Max or Jaime or all these other players in the past. They've done this. That I don't think it's going to be a thing moving into next season. But as the offseason goes around a little bit, I'm I don't think he's going to be an on-ball player, but I do think he's going to be a secondary action player, where he's somebody that does fly off some curls and get downhill, where he does have the ball in his hands, because he's shown with Sweden he can be a passer and make the right play when he kind of has the ball in his hands a ton. But he also is somebody that is just so physical. He's just going to get to the line if he keeps drawing contact, getting paint touches. And I think what we're going to end up talking about with this Heat team, when we talk about the offense and everything, is they're going to need somebody to get paint touches. Davion's going to be the swing player, I think, with that. He's just somebody that can get downhill and find that and make those kickouts. But I think Pelle is going to be somebody they encourage to kind of do that thing as well. So the shooting is just going to be – the thing is, too, is he's shooting pull-up threes right now, right? I'm watching him in Sweden in Summer League. It's not his threes are all confident in rhythm threes. They're, as you were talking about, they're not sitting still flat-footed threes. He's just kind of in it. So when he's engaged, I just think it's a different level of shooting for him. So I just want to see him. And I think Spo will encourage it. Like you said, I think he will be closing games at times. I think Spo will want him to go and play at that level. So it's not one of these situations where we're well, he's going to be held back offensively. I don't see that. I think they're going to let him off the leash a little bit.
The point that people are going to make, who are going to tell us to pump the brakes here a little bit, is that in summer league, obviously, he wasn't playing against elite players, and they needed him to be on the ball a lot because Kasparis really wasn't. They didn't seem like they wanted Kasparis to do it a lot. They had other point guards running it and Kasparis standing in the corner, which we didn't love. But Larsson, again, was handling a lot of those actions. And then you go into EuroBasket, and he's playing against better competition, but he is really the only guy on his team that I've seen that really can create this kind of stuff. So they've leaned into him too. And I know the caveat here for everybody is going to be, okay, well, wait to see when he's playing with Hero, when he's playing with Powell, when he's playing with some of these other guys, and he's playing against better players also, whether he can still do it. The one thing that encourages me about him and has from the beginning is he is not afraid. He pays respect, but not reverence. And that's what you want to see. And I always go back to the first game he got real minutes, and he's going against DeMar DeRozan, who is a borderline Hall of Famer. I mean, I don't think DeMar's going to get there, but he's been an elite scorer for a long time and a unique scorer. And he basically said, well, he gets every call. Like, I mean, you don't hear rookies say that. And part of that is what we've talked about, this kind of European thing where you just say what's on your mind as opposed to being so coached about it. But I like his edge, like they like his edge. And I think that's why you're going to see Spo lean into that. Hold the thought for the other side. I do want to get to a new sponsor here, but also we're going to talk about the Hawkes element of this briefly, because Jaime hasn't had a chance to showcase himself this offseason. He did last offseason. He hasn't this offseason. Will that actually help him or hurt him this time around? All right. You know what will help you if you're going out for a night drinking? And I can tell you from experience on this, because I tried a couple weeks ago, and I will tell you that I felt much, much better the next day. And, I got all these podcasts that I got to do about nothing during the offseason. So I got to lean into ZBiotics. Again, check it out at ZBiotics. I got to tell you about this game-changing product. You use it before a night out with drinks. It's called pre-alcohol. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration. That's the blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol, excuse me. See, I need to take it now. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Fall is right around the corner, so that means it's time to raise a glass to your favorite team, whether it's the Heat or another. And again, the Dolphins, if you really want to indulge in that, you might be doing some drinking. So whether you're tailgating, enjoying a college game day, or watching Sunday's action on that fancy new TV, don't forget ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink. Drink a pre-alcohol before drinking and enjoy great days after celebrating all season long. Go to zbiotics.com/on the floor. That's on the floor to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use on the floor at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Again, remember to head to zbiotics.com/on the floor and use the code on the floor at checkout for 15% off. Okay, let's get to the first to what I was saying there. Okay, I can't remember what I was saying. It was before I did the spot. But basically about competition level here. Like, what do you make of this? Because, I mean, obviously against Serbia, he's going to go against better players, but he's not playing against the kind of players with the kind of quickness he's going to see in the NBA necessarily.
100%. I'm not really making my decisions on Pelle from Summer League and EuroBasket. Like, I just think this is kind of the next steps, just kind of seeing the small growth that he's making. I'm more so basing it off of, like you said, the stuff we saw last season against real NBA guys. You mentioned the one against DeRozan. I'm thinking about the one against Tatum, where he was kind of going like at Tatum, like he was not backing down. He was just sitting on the baseline, going like talking to him. Like it's like that type of energy from your second round rookie isn't normal. Like I just think you have that, and now he's kind of coming into form with the skill set, and he's matching the mentality. I mean, that's when you have an interesting player that we can talk about. So the competitiveness, I don't doubt. Like we talk so much about the offense because we're talking about the growth. The defense is a given. The defense, what we've seen. The only thing that I say is not a given with the defense, and I would talk about this offseason, is limiting the foul trouble. Like just because he's so aggressive, he's just so full throttle defensively that he does pick up those fouls. That has to be tamed a little bit. He has to worry more about containing, I think, than just like reaching and trying to get steals and being physical. But that's just who he is. You can't limit that. Like that's just who he's going to be as a player. And then I'd say the one thing that stuck out to me with kind of from the game, specifically today when he had 18, was he is so good with his pace. Like his pace is like, because we've talked about before, he could run the floor. He's like a fast break guy. He could bully you. He could put a shoulder in you and lay the ball up. But then you're seeing these things where he has like these slow steps where he's like decelerating, where he's getting inside the lane and he's kind of has that second step where he stops and lays it in. Like I think the word to say is like he's just so under control. When he's in the lane, he has good body control. He kind of has he just kind of has that under control totally. That the finishing has been a lot better that we've seen. Will that continue against like top tier NBA talent and NBA defenses? It's possible. Like I think this is kind of the growth for that. I think this is what's kind of coming next. And that's why I mentioned the shooting. Is like if the shooting comes and they respect it decently, the shooting is just what's going. Every role player needs it. But when they lean into that a little bit, the lanes just open up a little more. And we could say he's going against worse talent, but we could also say these teams in EuroBasket are scheming up against Pelle Larsson because Pelle Larsson is the best player on the floor. And when he comes to Miami, he's going to be the fourth or fifth offensive option. So like things are going to look differently and his role is going to look different. But I do think him having this attention, him being the number one option, him having the ball in his hands is ultimately going to be crucial for this season.
All right, here we'll close with this one. So as you're talking about everything that Pelle does well or could do well, I'm just starting to think about another guy. What does Jaime Jaquez Jr. at this point do better than Pelle Larsson does?
It's tough. I would say the only thing is like the mid post stuff that we saw we used to talk about, like subbing in for Jimmy because Pelle Larsson's not that player. He's not somebody in the mid post. But I think at this point, Pelle was a better finisher. He was somebody that gets to the line a little bit better. The shooting for both of them is questionable, but I think Pelle his jumper has looked better. I think in terms of pure form. Defensively, I think they trust Pelle. So I do agree. I think that's what they're checking boxes off looking when they're comparing the two. The thing is now with no Haywood, there's a chance for both of them to possibly play on certain nights. I don't know if I love that, especially in the same lineups at all. But I think Pelle is the better player at this stage, and that's why he's going to be the rotation player. That doesn't mean that I'm totally out on Jaime, and I know Spo is not out on Jaime. I think they still see that there's some growth to be made in certain areas, but it does feel like that he's kind of been passed in that way by Pelle pretty quickly. But look, it was one rookie season. We're comparing Jaime second year to Pelle first year, where we really should be comparing Jaime first year to Pelle first year, because look, maybe Pelle hits the second year wall. Maybe Jaime has a third year comeback. Like, we don't know, I guess, with that. So I'm interested in that. Like, that is a big piece of this, right? Like, is Pelle going to catapult off this big offseason, or does it get to a point where teams kind of, okay, he likes using his shoulder in the lane, he does slow down, he likes drawing contact, and we don't foul, they'll kind of put him in a tough spot. Are there defensive adjustments to his game where he kind of falls back a little bit in the second year? Ideally not, but like that's the kind of thing Jaime went through, and that's the kind of thing they have to prep for Pelle not to go through.
Your pause said a lot. I'll just leave it there. I mean, because the fact that you have to pause for that length of time after Jaime was first team all rookie and Larsson was a second round pick who got limited minutes says a lot. But again, Jaime deserves a full training camp to kind of see what he picked up, and whether, I think it starts Jaime with confidence. I think if he can start to have a little bit of success early in camp, the confidence comes back, then he'll find the pockets where he can be effective. It just does feel like this summer he's been passed. And look, that's going to make for interesting training camp. This training camp has more interesting quote unquote battles than we've seen before in recent years. I think the whole Jovic versus Ware thing up front to get the most minutes with Bam. Fontecchio has shown that there's a skill set there that Spo may want to tap into. So I wouldn't rule him out either. And obviously, Davion is going to be competing for as many minutes as he can possibly can. And then there's the Larsson thing with Jaquez. So I do think that although we kind of know who the 9 or 10 guys are going to be, there is definitely a minutes crunch potentially that is going to make for an interesting few days up in Boca, which is not something I can usually say about Boca, where I spent a lot of my teenage years. Brady, appreciate it. Brady Hawk 305. Continue to follow EuroBasket with us. I'll have a full episode with Brian Fonseca as we get ready for the knockout round. Nobody knows this tournament like Brian does, so he's going to be on with me over the next couple of days. Have a good one, everybody.